This is the story of the most powerful and ruthless king of a dystopian world being reincarnated into a medieval isekai world. As he opens his eyes as a newborn, he finds his mother and father looking at him with love and joy. The parents comment on how their newborn child has facial features similar to their own and are overjoyed by the arrival of their newest family member. The father, Reynolds, names his son Arthur and immediately wants Arthur to call him Papa. However, the mother, Alice, thinks Arthur is too young for that. While the two young parents are goofing around with their new child, Arthur wonders who these two people are and why they are claiming to be his parents. If they really are who they claim to be, that would mean he somehow died in his previous life and has been reborn with his memories intact. Arthur looks at the starry night sky, not believing that after his countless victories and world domination, he's been reduced by the gods to a powerless infant. He is embarrassed, to say the least, and the fact that he has to go through the process of burping is giving him secondhand embarrassment. Arthur doesn't hate his current life as both his parents are taking good care of him, but he is still displeased. He doesn't want to wear diapers, and he also has a constant sense of fear that someone might hurt him. All he can do to keep his guard up is clench his fist. Arthur's father notices this and uses the opportunity to place his finger under Arthur's hand to show his wife how much their son loves him. Arthur struggles to move, and as he presses too hard, he poops himself, and now his mom has to be the one to clean him. The embarrassment almost makes Arthur want to cry. He wants this bizarre dream to end, but unfortunately this is the harsh reality he must face from now on. Putting that aside, Arthur witnesses something even stranger. His dad is able to conjure magic and use it to boost his strength. His mom also possesses magic and uses it to heal his dad, making Arthur wonder how magic works. As it is a power he has been unfamiliar with in his past life, he is genuinely fascinated by magic and wants to see more. To do so, he realizes he must grow up first. Meanwhile, his dad enters the forest and subjugates a beast using his strengthening magic. Soon after, his group of friends visits him to hang out. Let me tell you, they will all play an important role in the later story. Back to Arthur, since he has nothing else to do. He examines his surroundings and absorbs as much knowledge as possible, because universally, knowledge is power. Reynolds comes back home after the hunting session, and Arthur wonders if he is now in a society where every single individual is allowed to own weapons. If this is the case, it means there is a level of danger outside that has made it so. Arthur believes it's only reasonable for him to obtain powers as quickly as he can to adapt to this world. Arthur has many questions which he unfortunately cannot ask yet, but despite all his frustrations, he still feels happy because he gets to have wholesome, priceless moments with his parents. In his previous life, Arthur didn't even have the freedom to sleep peacefully because his enemies tried to assassinate him every night. Now that he is finally experiencing peace, he becomes accustomed to his new life. After days, weeks, and perhaps months, he learns to crawl and quickly makes his way to the mirror to see how good he looks. After getting used to crawling and gaining good control over his limbs, Arthur sneaks out of his bed whenever his parents aren't around and heads to the library. There, he grabs a book, wanting to learn more about this world, and discovers that the continent he was born in is called Dicathen. Dicathen contains 3 kingdoms: the Darv Kingdom, where dwarves reside, the Elenoir Kingdom, where elves rule deep within a forest, and finally the Sapien Kingdom, where humans live, including Arthur. Arthur's nation is a monarchy, but the throne is inherited, unlike his previous world, where anyone could seize the throne by killing the previous king. After gathering basic information about this world, Arthur looks for a book on magic and, in a very cute way, grabs it off the shelf. After getting the book from the shelf, Arthur begins to reminisce on how more developed his previous life was compared to this one. The book he had taken from the shelf was to make him understand why this is so. He intends to study magic, which the people of this world referred to as mana. This can only be passed down from generations to generations and can be seen in just 1 out of 100 people. Furthermore, only 2 forms of mana exist in the world, and they are augmenting, which involves enhancing the body abilities with mana, and conjuring, which involves projecting mana and controlling it however the conjurer pleases. While reading this, he is reminded of his mother's abilities earlier, which clearly proves that she is a conjurer. Although every person that possesses mana has a mana core, which most spellcasters tap into at the beginning of puberty when they do this well and master it. They can now become mages. Having read this, Arthur believes it is similar to the concept of Kai, which he is very familiar with. However, he is skeptical about whether this knowledge would serve as a weapon for him, being the wannabe kung fu warrior he is. At that moment, he channels his inner Kai and is about to attain a certain level when his mother, Alice, interrupts him. She carries him up like the bae he is and looks at him closely. At first, he thinks she has caught on to his charade, but she soon reveals that he must have shit himself, which he clearly did, the stench. While Alice goes to change his diapers, Arthur is devastated by how much of a prison this body was becoming. He vows to gain more power. Later on, Alice spends time documenting aspects of Arthur's life and is so pleased with how much he is improving in this world. However, she is bothered about the fact that he has never smiled at them. With "I've thought of this" makes her sad. He looks out the window to find her husband, Ray, teaching Arthur how to use a sword. He is so happy to inform Alice about Arthur's progress, but she is pissed at him for teaching their young son a very harmful skill. Sorry man, women are hard to understand. She believes he is too young to learn how to use a sword and scolds her husband loudly. On the other hand, Arthur watches them closely and uses them as a framework to understand the structure of marriage, even though he is starting to believe that the world they live in could be ruled by women. Later that day, Alice takes Arthur to the market and he is so thrilled at everything he sees. Every single item he lays his eyes on seems like a lesson to learn from. Now I understand why babies look around like they know the place, especially items that didn't exist in his previous world. He even got to observe magic up close, which he found very helpful. On the way back, he is gradually falling asleep, but before then thinks about how helpful his family has been to him. They finally get home and Alice takes him to his room. On the way, she talks about how happy she is whenever he slips out of bed to read, and how curious he is whenever they are at the market. She believes he had gotten these qualities from his father, Ray. Just like him, she comes to the conclusion that he could end up running off to see the world, but hopes that he would get to live a more peaceful life. That evening, Arthur watches his father do some magic and is thrilled at the thought of having someone he could learn from closely. He watches his father raise a few rocks from the ground and changes his mind. Before he could get incredibly disappointed, Alice comes around. She assures him that Ray is just getting started and urges him to watch even more closely. At that moment, Ray amplifies his magic and ends up pulling off some advanced skills. Watching him do this, Arthur immediately figures that his father is an augmenter. He gets pumped to do a trick of his own, but his daydream is cut short when his mom informs him that it is now his bedtime. While she carries him to his room, he comes across a book on the shelf and continues to point at him, crying out loudly for her to let him read it. After a brief moment of unleashing his cute face, she is forced to let him read it for a while. Can anyone tell me how this worked just as he reads the book? He reminds himself of all the knowledge he has gained in his bid to produce a mana core for himself. He begins to channel all the mana from various points in his body to one point. He does this for a while, and at the time when his parents thought he would probably be asleep, a loud explosion comes from within the house. When this happens, Ray dives quickly to protect his wife and ends up getting his back burned. After verifying that Alice is safe, they both remember that they had left Arthur in the house. Hurriedly, they run into the house and are surprised to their bones when they find Ray floating mid-air. They are left dumbfounded at the sight of this and do nothing but watch him as he descends to the ground. Just as he does so, the roof begins to fall. Since he was just a child, Arthur couldn't move out of the way in time, but his parents swiftly shield him from what could have been his reunion with the underworld. Soon after, they all burst into tears, with Arthur realizing that Alice and Ray would do all they can to keep him safe, a sense of assurance he never got in his past life.